Hey guys, welcome back to the Radium Records channel. I'm Bradley Denniston. I'm going to be breaking down my brand new song, Brand New, in this video. I know you guys have really enjoyed this process of me showing you all the plugins, the arrangement, production, songwriting, mixing, and mastering of my songs that I'm releasing as an artist. So I figured, why not do it with this song? Right? So we got live instrumentation throughout the whole thing. I'll show you how I set up for live players. I'll show you all my mix moves, some brand new plugins that I'm using in here, and also some classic plugins that I'm using all in the box, mixed all in the box, and just break it all down for you guys. Answer any questions you got, just drop them in the comments. And if you want to check out the song, hit that link in the description. But let's dive right into the Logic Pro session. To start out, let's take a listen to the song up through the first chorus, and I'll kind of open up different plugin chains. I'll show you the master bus. Everything was mixed and mastered in the box using Logic Pro. So that's kind of fun. And I'll show you all the plugins and everything. But then I'll also bypass everything and then pop it back in so you can get a good thorough A/B. And then later in this video, I'll open up earlier sessions where the drums were programmed or loops and kind of show you where I started out and how I replace those things with live players. All right, so let's hear it. All right, so that's through the first chorus, but let's break this whole thing down. I want to, first of all, just play an A/B. I'm just going to bypass every single plugin I have on here. On the drums, the piano, the vocals, the master bus, everything. And I'm just going to give you an A/B with and without any plugin. So here's all the mixing plugins bypassed, and I'm going to play from the verse 1, and then I'll pop them all back in for you so you can really hear what they're doing. Gonna get on up to a brand new day. I'm picking back up, yeah, I'm on my way. Gonna put a smile back on my face. I know that the seasons are gonna change. Oh, so I'm coming back, bigger and better than I've ever been. Gonna get on up to a brand new day. I'm picking back up, yeah, I'm on my way. Gonna put a smile back on my face. I know that the seasons are gonna change. Oh, so I'm coming back, bigger and better than I've ever been. I don't about the rain, that sun keeps coming, shining brighter with every day. And I don't worry about the day, yeah, 'cause everything's brand new, with more living on the way. So as you can hear, a very big difference, right? The before is like, yeah, everything's recorded and it's there. But I don't want people to get the wrong idea that you just record well and you have this amazing mix, this amazing record. The record really does need mixing and mastering. And my technique and process is really to kind of mix, master, and sound design, sculpt the sounds as I go. So as I'm recording, as I'm producing, I'm kind of sculpting the sounds. I'm making a vocal chain, right? And then that vocal chain is becoming better and better and more fitting to the actual record and mix in the long run. Even when I'm doing drums and stuff, right? So that's a big part of my process in Logic. And that's why I need a powerful computer to do that, because I'm producing, I'm writing, I'm mixing and sound designing and sculpting as I go, as I work on stuff. And I think that for me came from making music for sync licensing and also scoring to picture for TV shows, commercials, and movies, right? So I worked on the Lego Movie, 22 Jump Street, Thor Ragnarok, just to name a few, but I've worked on a ton of different movies and shows where you have to have things sounding really, really good up front so that the director, the producers, when you go to just show even your demo-y stuff, I put quotation marks up for demo-y because you have to show stuff that does not sound like a demo to a director, to a producer, executives, when you're in a room. It has to sound really, really good and really finished. Even if you're mocking up orchestras, right? It has to sound like a real live orchestra or very close. So that's kind of the idea and the intention of my music and how I write and produce. But let's break down all the different elements here, and we'll start with the drums. So I'm going to open up a session where the drums started, and then we can reopen up this session and show you where the drums finished. And I'll talk about the drummer that got on here and how they played and everything, and the different mics that they recorded, because that's really interesting, hopefully, to you guys. All right, so let's open up the old session and go through where the drums started. Now I've got an old session open from January. It looks like the 13th of January this year. And this has drum loops and everything in it. And it's a little kind of, kind of wonky. So let's just have a listen. First thing you'll notice is the intro is different. And I cut the intro, but let's listen real quick. And then I'll show you what I got for the drums. It just feels really empty to me. Now that I've heard the final product, it kind of shows you how far you can go with production and arrangement and different ear candy and things like that, which are not in this mix. And it feels really flat, right? So live drummer can really add a lot of differences and variations, fills, and make your arrangement a lot more interesting and exciting. So that's something I constantly will try out. Even if the song doesn't end up with a live drummer, I want to try a live drummer. I just want to see what it can be. So here's the loop that I started with though. Let's just solo this out, and then I'll show you what I added to the loop to make it more interesting in the choruses, because you can see they're stacked up like a bunch of claps and things like that. And I love doing that. I love stacking up claps during choruses. But here's the loop that we started with. And then I stacked in this kick drum, which is just a sample, probably from Splice, OS FT For the Win Kick One or whatever. You guys can grab that probably from Splice, but that kind of adds a little more boom and punch, gives it a little hip hop kind of soulful groove, R&B. I don't know. It just kind of adds the bottom. And then we have this loop here, which is a percussion loop. I think this actually made it into the final with the drummer as well. So here's everything, these three loops together. Well, two loops and the MIDI kick drum. And that's really all there was to the drums when I first programmed these. And then I added like a fill here from Oliver, like an Oliver kit. I mean, who hasn't used the Oliver stuff off of Splice? And then I added all these claps. And let's just kind of hear all this together, because this is what kind of gave variance and variation to the chorus, right? I like the chorus to have more percussion elements going on. So here's what this sounds like. All right, so that is kind of like the basis of where I started with the drums. And these claps made it into the final as well. We'll open that session up again and I'll show you all of the live drummer stuff. But before we do that, I'll show you this claps bus. It has an 1176 Rev A and the Ocean Way, which I love, but it's disabled in this session for some reason. No clue why. But this is really just going to give it space. And in the other session, you'll see that this is still in there, the claps. So let's open up the other session and let's break down what the live drummer did differently and how it really added to the track and opened it up. All right, now we have the latest session open with the live drums from Kip Allen, who's out of Nashville. I work with him quite a bit, actually. He's a great drummer, super, super pro, and has a nice setup at home. So I work with him and a handful of other drummers, online, offline, etc. But he's someone that I really trust with this kind of sound, which is this soul pop, retro pop sound. So let's break down the kit and what we got here. I asked him to do bongos on this, which was kind of cool, and I'll show you those. But first I'm going to mute everything besides just the kit and where I have that. And so we have these toms and we have all the way down to this percussion loop shaker again. So let's just hear this real quick. Gonna get on up to a brand new... So that's like the basis of the kit. I wanted it to be pretty clanky and kind of sound old school classic, but also be in a room that sounds like it was recorded in a nice studio room. So I did a few things here. First of all, we have kick in and out. We have snare bottom, snare top. We have hi-hat. We have stereo overheads. Then we have a couple interesting mics here that Kip just kind of put in there. I didn't ask for these, but really cool additions that I used. So I got the crush mic, I got the hot Taito, tomato. We got the mono overheads and the Chungus mic. Now I want to just take you through these mics on the drums because I think it'll help you with your ear training to understand what these are doing with the kit and how they're kind of adding extra punch, thickness, fullness, grit, etc. So what I'm going to do is just kind of mute all of these for now, and then I'll pop them in and out while you hear this kit playing. So it adds this mid-range kind of low mids and mid-range crunch and punch and thickness to everything. And what that is if we listen to the crush mic here, I think it's really a super distorted kind of vibe, but then I distorted it even more. So I have the Pro Q4 on here, completely changing the curve of it because I really just wanted the low mids out of this. So this 178 really is the focus here. And then I have the Harmonix analog saturation processor. This is just it's like go-to for me from Softtube. And then the L1 is going to be at the end of the chain for this so that I just don't get overs, right? So this is going to just basically set a brick wall. Okay, I do this a lot on drums. I use L1 limiter. L1 is awesome. It has its own tone as well. It's just a classic sound. And then I have this busing, so I have parallel, this going to the drum room mix bus, this is a drum room bus, right? So I'm making a room for the drums. So I have the Ocean Way Studios, and then I have the UADX drum room. So I literally have two drum rooms going on, which I thought was kind of an interesting thing to do, but it works. And sometimes I'll switch between the two for different parts of the song. So it's just like a little, tip for you guys. You can have like your verse in one room, and then for like the chorus as it opens up, the drums can open up into a bigger room. Or you can have both rooms on, right? So just to play these back and forth with this mic, if I bypassed the Ocean Way and we just go into Sound City, So that's both the rooms. You can hear they're not doing too much. Like they're not like overly out of control. But when things start stacking up, like all the different mics being sent to these rooms, it starts to give you this clanky, kind of dirty, distorted live sound that I really thought was cool. So that's the Crush mic. And if we just bypass everything on the Crush mic, here's what he gave me. Just sounded a little papery and kind of thin, and I was like, this is kind of whack, you know what I mean? So I was like, let's punch it up. First of all, let's EQ it, right? So that's what I did here. I got rid of all that puny shit and then added some punchy body shit. And then I distorted that body, and then I limited that body, and then I sent it to a room. And then I also sent it to this parallel of Shadow Hill's drum parallel compression. And then it sounded like this. And that right there just sounds like soul drums to me. I think just shifting everything, compressing it, distorting it. And look, I'm not going crazy with this. You can hear it's pretty light, but it's musical. And there's all these different textures that happen over little bites. I'm not trying to like just put on the harmonics plugin and just crush the crap out of it. You know what I mean? I'm doing this with like a bunch of different stuff. So hopefully that's pretty helpful. If you guys like that tip on the drum mics and stuff, drop some love in the comments. It means a lot when you guys drop love on the comments and hit the like button, because I can get more people to see this and hear this and learn, right? And we can hear better music being made. That's kind of the key to it all, right? I'm tired of hearing all this crappy, like just the mixes are just terrible and it hurts your ears. So please share the video. All right, so then we have the mono overhead. You can see a lot of the times I'm taking out the 500 because it's papery and boxy, and then I'm taking out these 2K areas, which are like really harsh on the ears with the cymbals and everything, and then I'm beefing them up, right? So there's 66 here. And then we have the Hot Taito. I want to show you this one because this is pretty unique, and I didn't do anything to the Hot Taito mic. I just left it and turned it down and send it to the room and the parallel comp. So I thought that was really cool. It's like a gated, filtered, distorted mic. I thought that just sounded really dope. And it just adds a little bit extra transient information to every hit and makes it a little bit more just punchy and stop and go. And then we have the Chungus. I don't know what this is or where he came up with this, but same thing. I'm just sending to parallels. I thought that one sounded the most musical to me. That's the mic that I like the most. And I just blended all these together. So we have the Hot Taito, the Chungus, and the Crush mic. All of them together sound like this. Really nice, right? Very mid-range focused. So we have like really from like 60 hertz to like maybe 1.5K. And that's really the center focus. Distorted, warm, gritty, sounds like soul music to me. Like funk, like soul, all that stuff that hits tape. Now, I got a drum mix bus here, and I want to break down this as well because this is a big part of the tone that you're hearing. First, let's bypass the drum mix bus, those plugins, and then I'll break down what the plugins are. Now, when I bypass those plugins in and out, you're like, I don't hear much of a difference. You're not going to hear much of a difference on these kind of mics that are already distorted, already affected, and very low. You can see the faders are low in the mix. So that's intentional. I don't want the affected mics, like the stuff that's already gritty, distorted, all that stuff to be overdriving or clipping out a tape plugin on my drum mix, right? So when you start to hear these plugins really take full effect is when you add all of the drums in and you have those transients that hit over and get distorted and folded on with the tape compression and saturation. And I'll explain this after I play this A-B for you, right? So here are all the drums going to the drum mix bus, and I'll bypass these plugins in and out again so you can really hear what they're doing. All right, so hopefully you can hear the difference. A little bit of an EQ curve change, right? But really what we're doing here is we're using the 3348 tape here from Mixland. My guy, Jesse Ray. Love the dude. He's hilarious. One of the funniest guys I know. And this has a little bit of a smiley face curve, but really it's like punching it up. It's punching it up, and we're getting a little bit of that excitement up at the 22K. So I get that clank on the cymbals, right? And then we're driving the input a little bit and taking down the output. And that's very typical with these kind of plugins. You want to drive it and then take it down. Interesting thing about this plugin and what this tape machine is, it's not tape. It's not magnetic tape. So you are not distorting and overdriving the tape. That's not what's happening. You're actually driving the A to D, D to A converters on this plugin. That's what this was known for. The tape on this plugin and on the actual tape machine itself, the analog version of this that it's modeling, was just a storage medium, like a floppy disk. Okay, so the sound of this comes from the A to D, D to A, and hence why he has a bunch of different options for the A to D, D to A conversion. And then you have emphasis, frequency, limiting, all that stuff. Instead of using the limiter on this, of course, I have my L1 limiter, and that's pretty much just catching peaks and taking them down at -0.3. And then Pro Q4, this is really just shaping the drums, right? So we're getting... yeah, just taming and keeping it punchy and fat. So this is at 50 hertz. And I'll play this for you, bypass it in and out. Now, when I when I soloed that band, you're like, why am I hearing all these frequencies coming through? It's because when I am sending all the drums to the mix bus, I don't send all of the drums to the mix bus. I want some of these to be paralleled. So let's find what's going parallel. If you look at all these drums, there are the parallel mix buses, the parallel effects, right? The compression and stuff that you're hearing in that drum mix right there. And they are parallel. They are not going to the drum mix bus. They're going directly to the stereo bus, okay? So when I go to bus 10 here, you have Ocean Way, drum room. That goes to bus 9 with the drum mix bus, yes. But then bus 11 is Shadow Hills. So this is what you're hearing. If I mute this, drum parallel compression, and let's go and do that again on the drum mix bus, right? Hopefully you're following along here. So the drum mix bus is bus 9 here. And now when I go back up to this EQ and I'm going to solo this band out, now you're only going to hear 49 hertz soloed. All right, so that is what that's doing on the drum mix bus. But we have a parallel compressor with the Shadow Hills. So that's what you were hearing before when you're like, why am I hearing all that? So that's kind of confusing, I know, but there it is. Now, Kip also played these bongos in. I was like, yeah, man, can you play some bongos? Reason I wanted the bongos is because they kind of added more groove and movement to the whole track, like just made it feel like it was going forward. And it gave it a different bounce. All right, so on the bongos, we have this Heatwave plugin, which is really driving it and distorting it, right? But then it's also kind of bringing it up in level. And then I'm EQing the crap out of it because I wanted more of the fingering rather than like the body, like the because it was super papery and just didn't sound right to me, to my ears. So this is what I did with it. So here's before and after with these plugins in and out. And of course, it's going parallel to the UAD and Studio, Sound Studio, whatever, plugin to give you room. So I'm gonna solo these bongos here for you. So as you can hear, it's really a texture, and for me, I want to just hear the fingers to give the groove. So let's move on though. Let's go to the chorus where we have the claps. Now the claps, same thing as the older version, I have it going to the clap bus, okay? So there's a bus 3, and this is hitting the UAD 1176 Rev A, which is one of the best sounding 1176s in my opinion. Like I've used all the different hardware interfaces, you know, the silver, the blue stripe, the Rev A, the Rev E, all that stuff in hardware. This is my favorite for the software and being able to model that. And then this is also going to the UAD Oceanway Studios. So here's what the claps sound like on the chorus with the drums. And we're just going to solo out claps and all drums together right here on chorus. All right, pretty crazy though when I put the drum room back in and out, how much you hear like this like slap off the wall and how much more old school it sounds. To my ears, that's what it sounds like. So here's drum room in with the bass as well. So I just love that. I love hearing that pre-delay go, like the early reflection going, like it, for some reason it makes like the whole thing kind of feel more lively, like, oh, we're in a live space and this is a live drummer. You know, like that's what I want, is like, I want you to understand that that's live. We are live and direct, baby. All right, so now let's pop the bass in. The bass has 1176 classic bass tone. So the anniversary edition, I have 2-to-1 on the bass. And then the Pro Q4, which is what, 455? I push up the 455 area. A lot of people take this out of a bass, and I think that's really, really dumb. So I'll play this for you, and I'll solo out that area so you can really hear what it is in the bass, because it is like the definition of the bass a lot of the times. So yeah, the bass is really just there. It's doing its thing. It's grooving. It sounds really cool. I really liked it. And then we have the trombones, the alto, like all the horns, right? So this was all done by Andrew Morgan Smith, who kind of my go-to guy for this kind of stuff. You guys should definitely tap in with him if you need any live horns, especially sax, because he plays all the sax stuff. So the only plugin I have on the trombones, now besides the valves bus, which I'll break down, but the trombones was this. And this plugin, the Helios Type 69, amazing on guitars, electric guitars, and acoustic guitars, and horns, I absolutely love it on, and also bass guitar, like electric bass. So this is kind of my favorite plugin for like stringy instruments and brassy instruments. So what I'm doing here is very simple. I have a 4.5 peak, and then you can see this is a peak or trough. Peak or trough. It's like super British, right? So you're either peaking or you're troughing. So I'm peaking up a little bit of the 4.5, and actually it looks like 400. So the 400 area. So I'll pop this in and out for you so you can hear it, because it's doing really bringing body and pushing the trombone forward. Like you feel that fullness in that 400 area, and it also pushes it forward in the speakers. The reason I did that is to balance out the sides of the horns, because you're going to have a bari sax, right? So the bari sax is going to have body and punch. So here's the bari. Right, so I'm trying to get this like full sound where everything works together, and I want it to also be very balanced. Okay, so check this out. I'm just going to solo all the horns here, so you can hear kind of how balanced the left and right is, and also kind of imbalanced, but you know, it's really about like the balance of the instruments. So if you have guitars and this sort of thing over here that's like playing in the same range, then you probably want to pan something else over here that has the same range. Meaning if there's a lot of like 500 in this source, and then there's a lot of 500 in this source, you don't really want to have them like, you know, oh, here's all the 500 source stuff over here, right? Rhythm, electric guitars, horns, keyboards in the 500, whatever. You want to kind of like spread those out so that the frequency balance feels good stereo-wise. So here's all the horns. Right, so this gives me a left-right kind of idea, and that's what these are doing. It's a call and response. And you can hear they're kind of distorted and kind of clipping out a little bit, but that's because we have them soloed going through a master bus and everything else, which is going to, of course, clip it, right? Because they're the only things hitting that right now. So the valves bus, what does that have? Pro Q3 pushing up that body again. And that's going to be in the sides. So you can see this is on mid side and those are in the sides. And then the middle is the 2K area. I duck that in the middle. And then also I shelf down on the whole stereo from 7300 up. And that's just going down 2 dB or so. And then we have the Tube Tech. This is amazing. A multi-band tube compressor. So it's doing some compression. This is also a great way to EQ stuff with the Tube Tech. So you can really EQ like the high end down by turning the threshold down and letting the high end get turned down from the compressor. So you can kind of shape the sound of things really nicely EQ wise with this compressor, which I do very often. And then of course we got tape, right? Because this is a soul record. We got to have the tape, A800 tape from Studer. Amazing plugin. One of my favorites for tape. Absolutely, hands down. And then this is a new one that I've been using quite a bit from Audioscape and the V-Comp. And it's just a beautiful tube style stay level compressor. Very beautiful. And then the Valhalla Vintage Reverb. So all of these together, let's bypass all of it on the valves bus. So here's a key thing, and I want you guys to really take this to heart. If you have a poor recording, then it's going to be really hard for you to mix and get your sounds the way that I'm getting my sounds. So Andrew Morgan Smith is recording all of these horns with a Flea 49, I believe. So he's either using a Flea 49 or Flea 47. So these are like really nice microphones, right? These are like expensive $5,000 to $10,000 microphones. And with horns, you know, he's got a good setup. He's recording really well. If you're not recording well and you have a shitty room and you have no acoustic treatment and you're like, dude, I copied your stuff and it sounds like shit. Well, you might want to start with the source. And I think that's key when it comes to just producing anything. So that's before, and let's just do an A/B real quick with in and out on the plugins. All right, that shit is screaming. We're like, yeah, now we're live. Like, that feels live to me, and I love that with the horns. That crunch, that distortion, that punch. That's everything when it comes to a soul record for me. So let's pop all that in with the drums and the bass and just hear what we got with these horns. And this is kind of like the foundational rhythm, besides the guitars, like, because the guitars are playing rhythm as well. So I'll show you that stuff. So good. I could just listen to that by itself. So let's move on. Let's hear the vocals in with all this and just kind of talk about the vocal mix bus and the vocal channel strip to get that really vintage modern sound that I love and, you know, kind of what I'm hopefully known for. So let's hear this. So I'm coming back, bigger and better than I've ever been. I don't worry about the rain. That sun keeps coming, shining brighter with every day. And I don't worry about the day, yeah, 'cause everything's brand new, with more living on the way, stepping up. So there you go, big vocal shouts, and really for the most part we want just a really smooth, nice, warm vocal that feels upfront and punchy. So I have the 1176 on the vocal mix bus. I got Soothe 2, and this is on DS, and that's that. So it's just de-essing on the vocal bus, and I have that at 2 times high. And then I have the AS again, the V comp. The V comp is so good on vocals, especially this kind of vintage modern vibe. One of the best, hands down. So let's hear just the vocal mix bus, bypassing it out. So I'm coming back, bigger and better than I've ever been. I don't worry about the rain. That sun keeps coming, shining brighter with every day. So I'm coming back, bigger and better than I've ever been. I don't worry about the rain. Oh, I love it. It's adding this harmonic fuzz and distortion to the mids and the low mids that I just, like, punches them up, just makes it feel right. That feels good to me. A lot of times when I'm mixing, I think about the feel of it. I don't think about, does that sound different? You know, I'm like, no, how does it feel, man? Because that feels better to me, regardless of whether you're like, man, I can't tell what it's doing sound-wise. Like, how does it feel? So important to me. So on the lead vocal, we have the virtual mix bus, mix rack, I'm sorry, FG77 driving quite a bit. And then we're going to the FG 1/16, so a little bit of compression there. And then we hit the meta tune. I needed the tuning. Sorry, baby. I didn't do any other tuning on this. Just kept the speed 27, 94% on there. And then we hit another EQ, which gives us a little top spit. You know, I like that 16K area. A lot of times that's where I'm up at. I'm like, I want to push up there. That's the air. And then I got a little body, 148. And then I dipped down right around 700, which is pretty typical. And then Pro DS, this is all being recorded with the TLM 103 Neumann, right? So I cut all my vocals for this record with this. And so I color it quite a bit is kind of the idea. And then the Pro DS doing some de-essing. Pro Q3, again, shaping more. Sometimes I will use 2 to 3 different EQs if I need to just do a little bit more shaping. I very, very rarely do surgical EQing. As you can see, this is not surgical. Surgical would be like really tight cues and we're getting rid of resonance and stuff. I like resonance. I think resonance in your vocal sounds more natural and more interesting. You know, hearing this like really sterile, perfect vocal nowadays just doesn't turn me on. Doesn't get me. Doesn't do it for me. Gets me limp-dicked. Perverts. All right, so we got vintage verb, of course, giving a little banger on the mash, and then I go to the UAD RMX 16. So I've explained my reverb before. I just love it, but here's what it sounds like with and without the reverb, which is 2 reverbs in serial, just blended in. So I'm coming back,
Bigger and better than I've ever been. I don't worry about the rain. That sun keeps coming, shining brighter with every day.
Ah, it's so lush, so beautiful, and feels organic to me. So that's the Valhalla Vintage Verb going into the AMS Verb. And this is at 6, right? 6%, literally. And then this one is on 20%, 20.6. So that's everything on the vocal channel strip. And then typically what I'll do is I'll duplicate that down, and then I'll just kind of tweak those things on these background vocals. So as you can see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 different vocal stacks here. And those are all punctuating different parts. They might be harmonies, they might be stacks, but let's hear them, right? So here is the shout kind of thing, and I'll just solo all of these out so you can hear them.
Brand new, with more living on the way.
All right, so what do I got going on here? I have the lead, and then these all say lead, but that's not what they are, because I just was like working. I was like going fast, so I didn't label anything. But I have these panned 23, 23, and this would be the first stack here.
Brand new, with more living on the way. Brand new, with...
Right, so we're going up there. I think that's a whole octave. And then we have the next vocal stack here.
Brand new, with more living on the way. Brand new, with more...
It's funny because I did like all the beginning brand new parts different and then went into the body of it. And you could hear this one goes down when we go into the stack on the end of the phrase.
Brand new, with more living on the way.
Right, so that's a harmony, obviously, but I don't know why I did like the high and then went down. Some artist shit right there. And then here's the third stack.
Brand new, with more living on the way.
That's hella funny. So I feel like these two up front should be married with these two, right? It would make sense, but why would I want to make sense? So all those together with the vocals, with the lead.
Brand new, with more living on the way. Stepping out.
Cool, right? So just kind of gives it a nice little choral vibe, and I don't know, just sounded good to me. Now there's other punches and other stacks in here as well, but for the most part, I think I got like some wee kind of stuff, because I always do that shit. I think they're here.
Day, I'm picking.
Yeah, just a vibe, kind of Beach Boys-esque, right? So that's all the vocals like right there. And they all go through the vocal mix bus, right? And let's break down the master bus before we get into anything else, because master bus is always fun for me to talk about. And it's also something I always set up ahead of time and start to mix into. So by the time I got drums, vocals, bass, and kind of like the basic rhythmic instruments down, I got a master bus cranking, you know what I mean? First thing on the master bus is the Capital Mastering Compressor, which I've fallen in love with for that Motown classic soul sound. I really, really love this right here, this saturation knob, and I don't do too much of it because if you push too hard, it gets really crazy, but it's amazing. And then I take the headroom up so I'm not clipping it out too quick. So I'll just kind of bypass this in and out so you can really hear this. And actually, let's just take all of the master bus stuff off, and I'll play just this compressor and what it's doing.
Day, I'm picking back up. Yeah, I'm on my way. Gonna put a smile back on my face. I know that the seasons are gonna change.
Like, obviously there's a volume difference, but if you really hear what it's doing, it's bringing everything up together. Adding that saturation really does add this thick glue, and I think probably tube. It's like a tube saturation going on in this plugin, and probably what this was based on if you looked up the Capital Mastering actual compressor. So that is awesome. I love that. And then the next thing I have up is the Curves Equator. Now, one caveat I want to mention, when I'm talking about a master bus, I don't talk about these in series. I never do that. So me going through a series like this doesn't make sense in my head. I think about the gain stage and everything as working in one unit. Like if you had a mastering desk, all the units would be on and powered up. For example, the compressor, the Curves Equator, the Soothe 2, the Gold Clip, these would all be like on my desk and they would be fired up, right? And the God Particle being the last in the chain. And they would all be working together in conjunction. And that's really how gain staging works, because if you notice when I bypass this in and out when it's soloed out, I start to clip the master bus. It goes over by a 2.6 dB or something. But that's not how we think about mastering or even gain staging really in the analog realm. And in the digital realm, what I try to do is think how I think in the analog realm, I try to apply it to the digital realm, because all of these plugins are trying so hard to do that nowadays. And that's what they're modeling. Every single algorithm is trying to model specific analog stuff. You know what I'm saying? So that's very, very important. So as I go through these, just, don't think like, oh, and then you added that, and then why did it get louder and then it got softer, You're like, it got quieter and then it got, you're going to hear all these adjustments that may not make sense when you're talking about these in serial. But when you talk about them all as one modular thing, as they work together, it all makes sense. So that's what I got. I got the Curves Equator, and we'll bypass this in and out.
I'm picking back up, yeah, I'm on my way.
Right? You'll notice right away when I put that on, it's like, it turned it down. Why did you do that? So let's go to the chorus, because I feel like you'll understand the Curves Equator a little bit better when we're in the chorus. And I just absolutely love this plugin. I use it like crazy.
That sun keeps coming, shining brighter with every day. And I don't worry about the day, yeah, 'cause everything's brand new.
Right? So Headroom's happening, but it's also clearing it up, and it's making it more spacious because we're getting more separation from the different elements in the mix. And then I have Soothe 2, and Soothe 2 is doing kind of a similar process. It's smoothing out a lot of the 2K and up, and then down here at the bottom. My favorite preset that I use all the time is between the low mid cleanup 1 or 2, and that is the DS low mid cleanup. It's on advanced mastering advanced. So these two are my favorites. It's always like what I go to first. And if those two don't work, one of those don't work, I'm like, why use Soothe? Like literally, that's how I think. All right, so that is what I'm doing there, and you can kind of see the settings. And let's pop Soothe 2 in and out.
That sun keeps coming, shining brighter with every day. And I don't worry about the day, yeah, 'cause everything's brand new, with more.
So you can hear it just kind of smooths it out and just makes it feel more cohesive. That's what I love about Soothe 2 on the master bus. Gold Clip. Gold Clip is a magic little extra 5 to 10%. That's what it does on the master for me. I typically put this right before my final limiting. And the reason is because I want to just clip off just the very top tips of the anything transient going over the threshold. And then I also really love the classic on both of these, especially when I'm doing classic vibes like this. I got 2 dB of gold and alchemy. Okay. And if you want to learn more about this, I've actually done a plugin of the week series on this plugin specifically, and I break down all of this stuff in detail, and the orange clip as well. So let's bypass this in and out.
That sun keeps coming, shining brighter with every day. And I don't worry about the day, yeah, 'cause everything's brand new, with more living on the way.
Very, very, very subtle soft clipping going on here, right? So if you wanted a hard clip, you could go to the hard here, but this is like classic. It's going to be more of a soft clip algorithm. So anything that goes over the threshold is just going to add some harmonics to it, basically fuzz. And you can hit the ceiling here, and yeah, I won't go too in detail with this, but Gold Clip, you can hear what it's doing. Typically for me, it brings the low end, like in the bass and the drums and all that, it brings it up and forward. And I love that about it. It's very, very nice for that. Last but not least, and most of the time, I'd say 80% of the time, last thing in my chain is the God particle. God particle shaping, just a little bit of shaping here, taking the lows down, taking the mid down, highs stay the same. Input down 2.7, we're doing some gain staging, and then we're throwing the harmonics in here at 106%, which key thing to understand about this plugin, 106% really is 56%, 200% is 100%. It's just the way it works on this plugin. And then you have limiting 7.8, and I have my output at 0.2. Sometimes I have this at 0.3, sometimes I have this at 0.1, depending on the record, but I like 0.2. Gives me a little bit of leeway for the conversion to MP3 or when it goes to a lossy format. And when you go to stream your song, it's going to get lossy. So you might have a 44.1 24-bit file in WAV format when you make your bounce, but when you go to upload it to DistroKid, CD Baby, etc., you're then going to go blast it out to the streaming platforms. They're going to put it on a server. That server is then going to stream it out at a bit rate that it truncates the word, right? So if you're distorting, right, at 0, like let's say you're at 0, or even like you took this up and you went over 0, you have a big chance that when that conversion, that lossy conversion happens, when it's streaming, you're going to get distortion, artifacts, etc. So I constantly just think, how do I give myself a little bit of room for that to happen, right? So distortion's fine. I'm not scared of distortion. I just don't want unintentional distortion where it doesn't sound good to happen. So I'm constantly thinking about that as I master. And I am in a tuned room. This is very tuned. And I have the Dutch and Dutch 8C monitors, which are very, very good. And yeah, and I got different headphones and stuff that I use, right? DT 1990 Pros. I also have the VSX on here that I was checking the mix on. Right? This is my favorite room in the VSX. Hopefully this is helpful for you as well. The Archon Studios, or Archon. I don't know how to say that, but I typically check on all, or these two. I don't usually use the soffits, but I use the midfield and the near field, which are the ATCs and the Amphions. So these are two great, this is just a great reference. I'll pop it on, I'll listen, I'll go through parts that I think, oh, is there some distortion there? Is there something weird there? And I'll use that as well. So this is my final kind of setting for my God particle, and this is where you're going to get a lot of the volume as well.
And I don't worry about the day, yeah, 'cause everything's brand new.
Now, a record like this, I don't typically have it blasting that much in the high mids. You know, you might hear this and go like, wow, it's really punching at 1.5 to 3K. I did that on purpose because I felt like the record needed to be really bright and needed to be like forward because of just what the record is about. You know, it's about like a brand new day and feeling better and coming to, and it has like that Bob Marley kind of sound feel to it, like Three Little Birds kind of vibe, you know. That was the intention of it when I was writing it. I was like, I want people to play this in the morning and be like, hell yeah, dude, this is a great start to my day, and feel like it's like medicine for them, you know. So that's kind of the intention with the master, was keep it bright and positive and upbeat, and get that vibe across. If I made it dark or I made it too rounded, I don't feel like I would get the same sensation, you know? I just want that to like, that pop. I want it to get you going, right? So that's what I'm doing there with the God particle. And this does a lot for this record, this harmonics area, just to bypass this in and out.
That sun keeps coming, shining brighter with every day. And I don't worry about the day, yeah.
Right? Like it's borderline too much. Like I'm getting to the point where it's like, it's starting to break. And that's what I wanted. I wanted to go right at that threshold. Like this is starting to break. It's starting to distort in the high mids and stuff. Good. That's where I want it. Right? This is the best thing ever. You know, it's like when you're so excited that you start to like scream almost, you know, like that was kind of my, my idea with the master there. So let's go through the final kind of stuff here and wrap this up. So we have guitars, which I played everything in, and this is actually where it started. is, funny enough, this is where the whole song started, was right here with this rhythm guitar idea. I picked up, I think it was my Telly. It might have been this guy, which is amazing, by the way. These Squier Jaguars, just awesome guitar, especially for like $500. But I picked this up and I started playing these chords and this rhythm. So it's E, F sharp minor 7, A, E. And it just repeated, and I was like, oh, this is dope. So here are the rhythms that I started everything with. And I also used the Milkman Creamer from Mixwave. Favorite, by far favorite amp right now. All right, so let's hear it. I just love that. That felt like so easy breezy chill to me, and felt soulful and felt like a good vibe. I don't know. And then this one, guitar, this bridge guitar here, which it's not a bridge guitar, but really what it is a, it's this guy with the whammy, right? So I had this baby boy right here, right? And like, oh man. If you don't have something like that, you know, to make these kind of cool guitar effects, you're missing out. It's just a lot of fun. So I'll sit here and I'll just play it like 14 times doing the same whammy just to get the right feel. So that's the Milkman Creamer going through the Hitsville EQ, which is interesting. And I did 800, push that up and push down 12.5. And then we have the Valhalla Vintage Verb, pretty big, chamber 1979. This vibe is everything to me, and just kind of gave it that soulful, classic, beachy, good vibe. Like I could just have that cool, like, yeah, man, we're smoking a joint. We're just having such a good day. Now, biggest reason I did that whammy pull there was because it felt so empty in the phrasing for the vocal right there. So check it out.
Day, I'm picking back up, yeah, I'm on my way. Gonna put.
Right, so without it, it feels kind of like what happened in the vocal, right? So check it out. This is without it.
Day, I'm picking back up, yeah, I'm on my way. Gonna put a smile.
Right, it just kind of felt like, I want something to listen to right there. Like what happened? It's just kind of got boring, or like something's missing. So that's what I put in there. And those are the guitars, very, very simple. I typically will track like one type of guitar left and another type of guitar right. So if you got a Stratocaster and a Telly, like do Strat left, Telly right, you're going to get more width. It's going to feel cooler too. Like those rhythms will bounce on your ears. And I always track the double. I never like do one single pass and then like, duplicate it and like delay it and do all these stupid tricks. Just play it twice. That's how you get width out of your guitars. It's such an important part of producing. Now, this was an interesting one that I put on here was the Osmose. The Osmose keyboard, if you're not familiar with it, it basically is like this really expressive keyboard. And it's an analog, well, it's a digital synth. It has a bunch of samples in it, but it's so cool. Like you can just bend everything and make it sound so crazy. And that's what all of these blue synths are. So I'll let you hear these.
Gonna get on.
So that's a really cool thing because I kind of felt like it sounded like an organ. It feels more expressive, like you're using a pump or something. But it's my synth, the Osmose. You check it out. It's very, very cool. You can also use it with third-party plugins. that have that stuff built in. So you can see also I muted all this stuff at the beginning that I did with the Osmose. And I felt like after I heard it so many times that this part started to feel too cheap and cheesy, that like it didn't fit the vibe of the song anymore. So I'll show you. Right? Like, I was like, I don't need that. Why would I need that? So sometimes we do stuff in music where we're like, oh yeah, I'm going to spend all this time on this thing. And then you just mute it and get rid of it. I do that so often. Like this, I don't even need this. I'll just delete it, right? I don't need any of that stuff because it's not serving the song. So when I went back, I was like, all this needs really is like a drum fill pickup. So then the song, instead of that, like instead of that, I just right, that feels more to me like get up and go anyway. It's like, you just are right into it. So that felt right. Okay, UAD organ. I've talked about this before. Love it. Waterfall B3. Amazing. It's playing chords. We got piano, the addictive keys on this. I don't usually use the addictive keys. This was an interesting choice here. And then the Contact 8 piano, I don't think this is actually even on right now. Maybe it is, who knows. But this is, the Maverick. Cool. So these are like 3 keyboards and then a high piano bounce, which is probably the Maverick as well, I'd imagine. Yeah. So these are all playing different things. So here's the high piano bounce. And that's it. That's the full thing. So hopefully you guys enjoy the song. If you did and you enjoyed this breakdown, show some love in the comments, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel. I'm going to keep doing these kind of breakdowns and you guys hopefully get a lot out of them. I got new songs coming out. I got a new song coming in like 2 or 3 days. It's going to be on a Netflix series called Ransom Canyon. So that's going to be a fun one. And I might do a breakdown of that. If you guys show up for me, I'll show up for you, right? I'll see you guys next time. Check out the song and show some love. All right. Peace.